What's going on, everyone? It's Mr. West. I hope we're all well. So welcome back to another ultimate video test. This time a slightly shorter one, but trying out the Huawei P30 Pro in low light using the Filmic Pro app. Now I've already done a video using Filmic Pro in daylight conditions, and you can find that popping up on the screen sometime right now. But I just wanted to try out the P30 Pro using this app to see how it copes in lower light conditions. Now, without things like the electronic image stabilization and the image crop, the image is actually quite true to life. It's not quite completely dark outside at the moment, so it's kind of that kind of tricky low light where it's not quite dark and there's still a little bit of light in the sky behind me, as you can see. Okay, so this is using Filmic Pro on the Huawei P30 Pro, and this is 4K at 30 frames per second, and this is currently at the highest ISO, which is 6400. Now the phone is in a gimbal at the moment, so that helps us to get the smooth footage that you're seeing here. And you can see there is a huge difference when using the phone with this particular app compared to when you use it with the stock camera app, which can tend to make things look very, very blurry and shaky because of the electronic image stabilization. So this is the main 40 megapixel camera. So this is just standard wide angle. Okay, so this is using the ultra wide angle camera on the P30 Pro with Filmic Pro. Now you can see it doesn't let in as much light as the main 40 megapixel camera, but there is an improvement to the actual video quality. Even though it's a lot darker, you're not getting that fuzziness that's caused by the electronic image stabilization in this mode. Okay, so this is the update for Filmic Pro on the Huawei P30 Pro. Now I've set the exposure setting so everything is as good as can be at this time of evening. It's sunset now. But the update for Filmic Pro on the P30 Pro now supports native electronic image stabilization, and you can see it's got nice smooth stabilization now rather than having to rely on a gimbal, which is great. Okay, so this is with the auto exposure settings. You can see the sunset in the background there, which does look really, really nice. But I can also go into the manual controls and I can alter that so there's more preference on myself, but it does blow out that sunset in the background. With the front facing camera, there's not such a huge range of scope for alterations due to the sensor size. But I still think that having the electronic image stabilization is really good, so you're having to bring a gimbal along with you. And the bit rate is obviously a lot higher as well, so the overall quality is that little bit better. Okay, so this is 1080p at 30 frames per second from the main camera, so that's the 40 megapixel standard wide angle camera. Now, because of the tricky light situation, I have just set the exposure to automatic. Whereas if I make some alterations, you can see I can get a much more dramatic sunset look, which prioritizes the exposure in the sky, but as you can see, the shadow detail is completely lost on the floor in front of me, or the ground rather I should say. So the electronic image stabilization does work really well. Helps to smooth out the bumps on the ground. Now obviously you do get a slight crop in the image in order to achieve the electronic stabilization, but it's not too bad. You don't lose too much of the image, and the great thing is you still get use of all the built-in controls on the Filmic Pro app, which is really nice. So I've locked the exposure now at this setting, and that allows us to enjoy the last of what is left of the sunset in the distance. And we'll just peer around and look into the sky. If I just remove the exposure, so that is now pretty true to life. Colours look good. Also the detail in the clouds as well, and also up into the distance as well. So this is one great thing about Filmic Pro. It does allow you a hell of a lot of control over the video. This is 60 frames per second from the standard lens. Again, I've adjusted the settings so the exposure is kept nice and even. If I walk around, you get the electronic image stabilization in this mode as well, which is cool. So that is 1080p at 60 FPS using Filmic Pro with this electronic image stabilization feature added. Okay, so this is now the ultra wide angle camera, and again at 1080p at 30 FPS with the electronic image stabilization. Now we are losing a bit of light, and the ultra wide camera doesn't do as well in lower light situations, so just make most of what light is left in the sky. And I can see it's having some trouble with the focus as well, so this wouldn't be absolutely ideal for these situations. I can use the manual controls to try and get a nice balance in the image, so that is pretty much okay for the phone. A little bit of overexposure in the sky, and I can also use the manual focus just to get a bit more detail in the distance. So this is in the Filmic Extreme setting, so it's aiming for 100 megabits per second video bitrate. So hopefully you'll get the benefit of that when you're watching this back on the YouTube channel. Okay, so this is with the Telephoto lens. So you've got a manual slider you can use at the side of the screen. So when the bar goes green, it means you've got good detail, and when it starts to go amber or red, that means you are losing detail. So you can see just there, starting to lose detail, but if I move back just a bit, and I can see the bar going green, that is good detail, and I can lock the focus then as well. So just move around. So obviously movements we're using the zoom camera are much more exaggerated, but focus is good and the image is nice and clear as well, which is awesome. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to show you is the dual view recording on the P30 Pro. So this was enabled in the what we call the 153 software update. And what this allows you to do is record with the wide angle and also the telephoto camera at the same time. Now the video has been recorded at 1080p at 30 frames per second, and it's locked at that, so you can't do any higher. Maybe future updates will allow for that. The colour science is slightly different between the two lenses. On the right we've got the ultra wide, which has got a much more natural look to it, whereas the zoom is much more golden. So it's at 2x zoom at the moment, so I can go 3x zoom and finally 5x zoom into the sun. There we go, it's just got the focus there. So now there is electronic image stabilization in this mode. Now do bear in mind, as I start walking, that telephoto camera is having its work cut out, just keeping everything stable. It's the same as any camera. When you've got it zoomed in, the slightest movement will exaggerate everything because obviously it's zoomed so far in. But gotta be honest, it's such a clever feature. And it really shows off the power really of this brilliant smartphone, which is sadly got a future which is hanging in the balance at the moment, which would be a huge shame. Let's just move around, just zoom out. So I can see the house, which is on the left hand screen there, and we've got a wide angle view on the right hand side, and I can punch in and go a bit further. Slightly different colour through each step there, but it's a cool feature. And I can continue around. For example, there's a rock there, so we can just about see it on this side of the image, whereas on the left hand side I can go right in and I can see it absolutely fine. You can even go up to 15 times digital, which is a little bit shakier, but if you really need to, you can use that. And the flash is supported in this mode as well, should you wish to use it. So that is now back at 2x zoom. So we'll test out the electronic stabilization with a quick run on both cameras. And we'll go all the way up to 5x zoom for a crazy shaky effect. And there we go, that is the dual view camera for the Huawei P30 Pro. You can see the zoom camera has just adjusted itself for detail, struggling a bit there, but not too bad.
The brand new OnePlus 16.
Oh, look at this!
This looks like we have a phone from the future.
A fingerprint sensor in the screen.
It's really cool. It's fast.
That is exciting. Yo.
Basically my battery check this year so far.
It's ridiculously fast.
Very, very fast and snappy.
Fastest face unlock in the game.
Because these have been consistently the fastest phones I use.
So I hope you've enjoyed this little bonus video. This is just the stock camera app now, using 1080p 30 FPS from the front camera. I just wanted to show you these additional modes, just to show you what the phone is capable of when using them. The things like Filmic Pro, hopefully they will keep supporting the Huawei P30 Pro. I know there's been a lot of shenanigans with what's been going on with Huawei at the moment, but I really do hope that the Filmic Pro team do continue to support, because these additional features do add a lot of value to the video experience for the phone. But you let me know what you think. Leave a comment and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And if you're joining here for the first time, then please consider subscribing so you don't miss more content on the channel coming very soon. But for now, this has been my video update roundup for the Huawei P30 Pro. My name's Mr. West, and I'll catch you guys later.